There is a quiet tragedy unfolding in the modern human heart, one that doesn't announce itself with dramatic breakdowns or visible wounds, but with a gradual, creeping silence. It's the tragedy of the heart turning to stone. You may know this feeling yourself, that strange, hollow sensation when you witness suffering but feel no ache, when you behold beauty but experience no wonder, when you try to pray but meet only a wall of silence within your own chest. This isn't the absence of emotion, it's the presence of something harder, colder, a spiritual numbness that settles in the chambers of the heart like sediments slowly petrifying over time. In our age of endless notifications and curated realities, we have become experts at managing the surface of our lives while the core of our being, the heart, the qalb, that subtle organ of divine perception, slowly loses its capacity to feel, to yearn, to tremble in awe of the real. The great Sufi master Al-Ghazali, 8 centuries ago, diagnosed this condition with startling precision, calling it kaswat al-qalb, the hardening of the heart, and he revealed that this spiritual malady is more dangerous than any physical illness, for it separates us from the very source of life itself. This stoning of the heart doesn't happen overnight. It begins subtly, with small betrayals of our own sensitivity. We scroll past images of war while eating dinner. We offer automated responses to friends sharing their pain. We perform religious rituals by rote, our bodies going through motions that our hearts stopped feeling long ago. Each time we prioritize efficiency over empathy, distraction over presence, cynicism over wonder, we add another layer to the stone forming around our heart. The Quran describes this process with devastating accuracy. Then your hearts became hardened after that, being like stones or even harder. This isn't a divine punishment, but a spiritual law of the heart that isn't exercised in feeling, in remembrance, in tender vulnerability, will inevitably lose its suppleness. It will become a fortress without windows, protecting you from pain but also shutting out light, connection, and the gentle rain of divine grace. Yet, even in its stony state, the heart never completely dies. Deep within the stone, a memory persists, a faint echo of when it was soft, when it could beat with passion, when tears came easily and prayer felt like a conversation rather than a monologue into empty space. This memory is your greatest hope. It's the proof that your heart isn't dead, but dormant. The very fact that you can recognize this numbness, that you can feel the absence of feeling, means the essence of your heart remains alive, buried but breathing, waiting for the ancient cure that can dissolve the stone and restore its original, God-given sensitivity. The Sufis don't offer superficial solutions for this condition. They don't prescribe more entertainment, more consumption, or more frantic activity. They offer something far more radical, a complete recalibration of your being, a sacred technology of heart softening that has been passed down through generations of lovers of God, and it begins not with adding something new, but with removing what has accumulated, the dust of forgetfulness, the rust of neglect, the hard crust of worldly attachments that has formed around the living, breathing truth of who you are. To dissolve the stone, one must first understand its composition. In the Sufi wisdom tradition, the hardening of the heart is not a singular event, but a layered process, a cumulative result of 3 specific veils that settle upon the heart, each contributing to its increasing weight and insensitivity. The first and most pervasive veil in our modern age is the veil of Ghaflah, profound heedlessness or forgetfulness. This is not simple distraction, but a state of being where your awareness is so captivated by the outer world, the screens, the schedules, the endless stream of information that it becomes disconnected from the inner world of the heart. You live on the surface of your own existence, mistaking the noise for silence and the stimulation for meaning. Your heart, designed to vibrate with the frequency of the divine names, is instead bombarded with a chaotic static that leaves it overwhelmed and, eventually, numb. It is a spiritual law that whatever you feed your attention will grow, and whatever you starve will wither. A heart fed on forgetfulness will inevitably wither into stone. The second veil is the veil of Riya, spiritual ostentation or hypocrisy. This is a more subtle but equally devastating layer. It forms when your spiritual actions, even the sincere ones you began with, become contaminated with the desire for recognition, for social approval, or for maintaining a certain spiritual self-image. You perform the prayer, but a part of you is observing yourself pray, admiring your own devotion. You give charity, but you secretly hope others notice your generosity. This division within yourself, this fracture between the inner intention and the outer performance, creates an internal friction that coarsens the heart's delicate tissue. The heart cannot remain soft and open when it is simultaneously turned toward God and toward the eyes of other people. It is like trying to look in two directions at once. The strain eventually forces it to shut down, to protect itself by turning to stone. This veil is particularly dangerous because it uses the very path of liberation as its instrument of imprisonment. The third veil is the accumulation of Dhunub, not merely sins in a simplistic sense, but any action, large or small, that creates a sense of separation from the divine and reinforces the illusion of the ego as the center of the universe. Every act of envy, every nurtured resentment, every instance of feeding anger or indulging in arrogance, leaves a residue on the heart. Unlike the previous veils, this one is tactile. The Sufis describe it as a rain, or rust that accumulates through repetitive action. Each time you choose the gratification of the ego over the remembrance of God, you add another microscopic layer of this rust. Over time, these layers fuse together, forming the hard, stony shell that makes you feel so distant from the divine presence you once knew. The tragedy is that this process is so gradual you rarely notice it happening until one day, you reach for a feeling of connection during prayer or in the face of beauty, and your hand meets only the cold, unyielding surface of your own accumulated neglect. Yet, within this diagnosis lies the cure. For each veil has its corresponding antidote. The ancient Sufi prescription begins with a single, revolutionary act, the practice of Takhalli, of emptying and purification. It starts not with grand gestures, but with the breath. The same breath that has been operating on autopilot, sustaining your physical body, now becomes the primary tool for dissolving the stone. Sit in a quiet space and bring your awareness to your heart center. With each inhalation, draw in the divine light of awareness, and with each exhalation, consciously release one of these veils. Breathe out the fog of Ghaflah. Breathe out the rust of Dhunub. You are not fighting the stone, you are patiently warming it with the breath of remembrance until, layer by layer, it begins to soften from the inside out, revealing the living, feeling heart that has been waiting all along. The initial act of conscious purification, of breathing out the veils of neglect, creates the first, crucial fissures in the stone around your heart. But to fully restore its original, God-given sensitivity requires a more sustained and focused practice, what the Sufi masters call in their sacred terminology, Tahliyah, the process of adorning and polishing the heart. This is where the ancient cure moves from general cleansing to specific, targeted spiritual technologies, each designed to address the particular hardness that has taken root within. The heart, in its essence, is not a physical organ but a subtle, luminous entity, the latifa that perceives spiritual reality, and like any refined instrument, it requires precise methods to restore its function. The first of these is the practice of talbis, of clothing the heart in the specific divine names that counter the specific diseases that afflicted it. For the heart hardened by heedlessness, the cure is the continuous, rhythmic repetition of the name Al-Hayy, the ever-living. You do not merely say the word, you invite its reality into the cavern of your chest. With each Yahé, feel the vibration of this name as a divine defibrillator, sending a jolt of pure life through the dormant layers of your being. This name is the antidote to the numbness of modern distraction, for it recalibrates your awareness from being focused on what is transient to what is eternally alive. For the heart sickened by spiritual ostentation, the healing is found in the name Al-Kafi, the hidden one. This name is the great humbler. As you repeat it, feel it peeling away your need to be seen, your attachment to spiritual identity, until only a simple, naked sincerity remains before God. And for the heart crusted with the residue of forgetful actions, the polishing cloth is the name Al-Qudus, the pure, the holy. This name does not scrub from the outside, it radiates a purifying light from within, dissolving the rust of past regrets and missed opportunities not by erasing them, but by transmuting their energy into a sober, humble awareness of your constant need for divine grace. The second technology is the practice of muraqabah, or vigilant meditation, on the natural elements that mirror the heart's desired state. Sit in contemplation of water, its softness, its adaptability, its power to wear away stone over time without force. Let your heart remember its own original fluid nature. Then, contemplate fire, not a destructive blaze, but the gentle, warming fire of a hearth that softens what is rigid and brings light to what is dark. Finally, bring to mind the image of a polished mirror. The stony heart is a mirror covered in dust and grime. The practice of dhikr is the gentle, persistent act of wiping it clean. The goal is not to become something new, but to remove everything that prevents the heart from perfectly reflecting the divine reality that is perpetually shining upon it. In this state of polished presence, a single moment of true remembrance can do more to soften the heart than years of mechanical ritual. This process of polishing is not passive, it is an active and often challenging engagement. You will encounter resistance, for the ego clings to the protective numbness of the stone. There will be days when the names feel empty on your tongue and the meditation feels like a pointless exercise. This is not a sign of failure, but a crucial part of the cure. The heart's muscles, atrophied from disuse, are being stretched and awakened. The pain of returning feeling is proof that the numbness is receding. As you persist, something miraculous begins to occur. The stone, once a solid barrier, becomes porous. Then it becomes malleable. Then, it begins to feel less like stone and more like warm wax, holding an impression. And finally, with consistent practice, the wax melts away entirely, and you are left with what was always there, a heart that is soft, receptive, and vibrantly alive, a heart that can finally feel the gentle, constant touch of the divine, and in feeling, remember its true purpose, to love, to know, and to be known by its Creator. When the stone around your heart finally softens and melts away, the transformation is not announced by thunderclaps or blinding visions, but by a quiet, internal spring. The first sign is a return of tears, not the tears of self-pity or worldly sadness, but a different water altogether, the clear, sweet water of kashf, of unveiling. You might find them springing to your eyes during prayer, not out of grief, but from an overwhelming sense of presence, of being intimately heard and known. Or you might weep at the sight of a tree bathed in morning light, not because it is beautiful, but because you perceive the hand that painted it. These are the tears that polish the heart further, the sacred water that irrigates the inner wasteland. The Prophet Muhammad, peace be upon him, said, "Two eyes that will not be touched by the fire, an eye that wept from the fear of Allah, and an eye that spent the night in a guard post in the path of Allah." The weeping eye is safe because it is alive, it feels, it is connected to the source of all feeling. This capacity to weep at the divine address is the first and surest sign that the cure is working, that your heart is no longer stone, but moist, fertile ground. With this newfound sensitivity comes a subtle but profound shift in your perception of other beings. Where once you saw strangers, you now see hidden saints and struggling lovers of God. Your judgment begins to be replaced by a spontaneous compassion. When someone speaks to you in anger or acts from a place of pain, you no longer feel the need to build a wall or return the attack. Instead, you feel the stone that still exists within them. You perceive their harshness as a cry for the very cure you are undertaking. This does not make you a passive doormat, but rather grants you a divine authority, the authority of the physician who diagnoses the disease and responds with the appropriate medicine, which is always a form of love. Your interactions become a practice of muhasabah, not in the sense of judging others, but of lovingly accounting for the state of your own heart in every encounter. Did that conversation harden it or soften it? Did that glance stir pride or humility? You become the gentle guardian of your own rediscovered sensitivity. This revived heart must now learn to walk in a world that is still largely made of stone. This is the final stage of the cure, integration. You cannot retreat from the world, for the true test of a softened heart is its resilience in the marketplace, not its serenity in the cave. The practice now becomes one of creating moments of khalwa, solitude, within the jalwa, noisy crowd. You maintain an inner whisper of dhikr. During a stressful meeting, you feel the warmth of the name Al-Latif, the subtly kind, in your heart, a secret reminder of a gentler reality. You learn to let the world's harshness pass through you without leaving a residue, like water flowing over a smooth stone in a river, which remains unmoved and unbroken beneath the current. The polished heart does not shatter upon impact with the world's hardness, it absorbs the blow and responds with the appropriate quality: firmness when justice is required, softness when compassion is needed. It has become a true Qalb Salim, a sound heart, which, as the Quran says, is the only thing of value to bring before your Lord on the final day. The numbness is gone. The stone is gone. All that remains is a heart that feels, that loves, that remembers, and that knows, with every beat, its ultimate destination. The journey from stone to sensitivity, from numbness to remembrance, is the most sacred pilgrimage you will ever undertake, for its destination is not a place on any map, but the very core of your own being. You began this path feeling a hollow silence where your heart should have been, a chilling absence of the wonder and connection that makes life truly alive. You have learned that this was not your true state, but a condition, a spiritual malady with a precise and ancient cure. Through the practices of purification, the polishing with divine names, and the vigilant guardianship of your newfound sensitivity, you have performed a great alchemy upon yourself. You have taken the base stone of a neglected heart and transmuted it back into the living, breathing, feeling entity it was always created to be. This is the ultimate triumph, not to become someone new, but to return to who you always were, before the world layered its dust upon your essence. Your heart is no longer a stone, but a compass, and its needle, once stuck, now trembles with life, unerringly pointing toward the divine. This reawakened heart is not a fragile thing to be sheltered from the world. It is your greatest strength. In a world that prizes hardness, your softness becomes a revolutionary act. In an age that values speed, your capacity for deep, slow feeling becomes a form of wisdom. Your softened heart is not a weakness, but a more refined instrument of perception. It allows you to navigate the complexities of life with a discernment that logic alone can never provide. You will feel when a situation carries a hidden blessing or a concealed poison. You will know when to speak and when to hold silence, not from calculation, but from an intuitive certainty that arises from the heart's communion with the real. This is the fulfillment of the promise in the Quran, and fear Allah, and Allah will teach you. The heart that turns to God in sincere awareness becomes a student of the divine, receiving knowledge not through books, but through direct, intimate revelation in the moments of life. Let this not be an end, but a new beginning. The cure for spiritual numbness is not a one-time medicine, but a continuous way of being. Let your entire life become a polishing of the heart. Let every joy be a reminder of the divine duty, and every hardship be a lesson in reliance that softens you further. Let your breath be your constant connection, your daily interactions be your practice of compassion, and your silent moments be your intimate communion. You now carry the living water that can soften any stone. You are the proof that no heart is beyond repair, that no numbness is permanent, and that the ancient cures still hold their power, waiting only for a sincere hand to apply them. Go forward with a heart that is awake, that feels, that loves, and that remembers. For in the end, nothing else you achieve will matter nearly as much as the state of the heart you bring back to your Lord. This was the journey from a heart of stone to a heart that remembers its Lord. But the path is walked one step at a time. What is the one practice from this journey, the breath of purification, the name Al-Hay, the meditation on water that you will commit to starting today to begin softening your own heart? Share your first step in the comments below. Let us support each other in this return to feeling. And if you are ready to discover how to maintain this heart-centered awareness even in your sleep, the next stage of your journey awaits in the video that appears now. The heart's circuitry of light, rewiring your spiritual connection.